It's time for
DodgerHeads.
high fly ball into right field. Dodgers have won it all in 2020. Shohei Ohtani, 50-50 club. Strikes him out. There's a drive. Shohei Ohtani. Freeman hits the ball. She is gone. Birds of party, Los Angeles. Your Dodgers have won the World Series.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into DodgerHeads Live, presented by DodgerBlue.com, part of the Medium Large Sports Network. Happy Father's Day to all the dads out there enjoying a Dodgers win, maybe an incredible U.S. Open. You know, hey, if you're like me, maybe an F1 race in the morning. Incredible day of sports, capped off by a Los Angeles Dodgers win. Anthony, happy Father's Day to you. From a sports perspective, this is pretty much as good as it gets.
Yeah, Father's Day weekend always tends to give us something good from the sports world. Today was definitely good. I have not watched the F1 race. It's sitting in the DVR right now, locked and loaded for when we're done here. But yeah, watched the U.S. Open. That was a crazy finish. I know we don't have a ton of golf fans in here, but we can all come around and in solidarity around JJ Spawn, who is an LA guy and a huge Dodger fan. Even has a Dodger yardage book that he carries around. So that got some TV time today for him. So good for JJ Spawn. And then, hey, Dodgers Giants and the Dodgers go and take the rubber match. We'll take it. We'll take it. Let's do it.
Stephen Nelson sending me messages on Twitter saying they're working on getting Spawn out there for a first pitch. He also sent me, let's just say we've got some old JJ Spawn tweets that Dodgers fans are going to be happy about. We'll just leave it at that. You can go look at my account, and there's some pictures that I can't really explain. Not suitable for work, as the kids would say. So go ahead and check those out.
One thing we can say is he is a fan of Dodger Stadium micheladas.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. But let's get in. We got a lot to get to. We're going to talk about the 5-4 win that we just saw. The Dodgers, after taking 2 out of 3 from the Padres, they take 2 out of 3 from the Giants. We're going to talk injury updates, some huge news on Shohei Ohtani, Roki Sasaki, Emmet Sheehan as well over the last 24 to 48 hours. I want to get your thoughts on Clayton Kershaw, the performance we saw from him yesterday. And then, of course, if we've got some time, we're going to talk Padres-Dodgers because there's a big series coming up starting tomorrow, a 4-game set. And let's just say that the Dodgers rotation is not exactly set up the way that you would want it to set up for that series. Also, some Rafael Devers trade talk as well. Let's start with some super chats. As always, we appreciate those. We'll stop what we're doing and get to those as quickly as we can. Gabriel with the $5 super chat and a couple of cute wiener dogs there. And that's all she wrote. Game over. Dodgers win, baby. 2 games up on the Giants, 3 games up on the Padres. Happy Father's Day. Go Dodgers. There was a chance the Dodgers could slip as far as 3rd today, Anthony, and newsflash, they did not.
Yeah. There always seems to be a tidal wave of panic and pessimism going into these, or I should say there has been, like in these last 3 regular season sort of rivalry matchups last September with the Padres. That was when the Dodgers were destined to lose the division. They were not supposed to come out in first place when they played the Padres this season. For the first time, and then basically the same blueprint when they went into this Giants series, and lo and behold, they won both series, all 3 series, I should say. Yeah,
the Dodgers not at full strength, to say the least.
Not at all.
And little bro and little nephew can go kick rocks for a couple more weeks because the Dodgers continue to hold on to that NL West lead. So thank you, Gabriel, for the super chat. Bacon Tree, Kike and Rojas back-to-back, a tough watch. Shohei and Emmet back soon. Expected with Roki. Just get him right long-term. Mookie had some hard outs. Speaking of the first, going into this game, Anthony, Muncy and Smith both out of this game. Ha-Seong Kim also not playing. Michael Conforto, many people were probably excited to not have playing, but he, as a regular, was also not playing. All 4 of those guys out of the lineup at the same time. Rojas, Kike, and Rushing all in. I get giving guys rest, and I don't think a Sunday game against the Giants is something that you need to like shift all of your eggs into one basket. But I'm with Bacon Tree here. Ha-Seong Kim should be playing. every single game, it is obvious that he should be playing.
Yeah.
Every single game where you can't give me like a airtight reason he's not playing, tonight being a perfect example. And like Miguel Rojas should probably never be playing. Like if you want to give Muncy a day off, fine, but put Ha-Seong Kim in. If you want to give Conforto a day off, like then just line that up so that Kim is playing that day instead of Miguel Rojas. Dalton Rushing needs to get his days, but I'm with this. Kike and Rojas, tough back to back.
Yeah, I also was not a fan of this because Dave just said during the Padres series that their goal is to win a series, right? And they don't necessarily manage for game to game in that way. This was all part of the context here is the conversation about the Dodgers punting that loss to the Padres to set themselves up to win the series the following day. And sort of his point was like, look, when we have a chance to win the series, then we're gonna push in there.
Yeah,
it was that for them, and they sat a bunch of guys. I didn't really understand that, but it ended up working out.
No complaints.
And so the result was good. I thought the process there was a little questionable, though.
Yeah, and the weird thing we're going to get into, the starting pitcher for the Giants, a left-hander, was traded right before the game started and like literally had thrown his warm-up bullpen and then left. And so they switched from a left-hander to a right-hander. We knew it was going to be some sort of a bullpen game, but the first guy was going to give you bulk. And so they shuffled around the order of the lineup. I think Edman got moved down in the lineup to the 9 spot, that kind of thing. But it was yet another opportunity to just go ahead and do the right thing and put Ha-Seong Kim in the lineup, for one of these guys. I cannot stress Miguel Rojas. You can't justify having him in these games. Kike Hernandez against right-handers. You can't justify having him in these games. They won, so we can all move past this pretty quickly. But I feel for a guy like Ha-Seong Kim who is fighting for playing time, is earning extra playing time. And if you want to tell me, well, hey, we want to give Conforto a runway. Hey, Tommy Edman's got to play every day. Fine. But on the day when Conforto's not playing, when Muncy's not playing, he has to be in there. He has to.
Yeah. The matchup splits situation with Rojas and Kim should not be a thing anymore.
Yeah.
We're long past that. As you said, I think Kim has earned the playing time and Rojas has earned bench time. He should not be in that lineup. He's a defensive replacement at this point. Maybe if a guy is down or something like that, okay, fine, he gets a spot start here and there. But running him out there as much as they are is not the way to go.
Yeah.
Not when you have Kim as an option.
I'm with you. Fritz, happy belated Kershaw Day, Jeff. 3,000 on the horizon. Yes. Amen and amen. We will get to Kershaw. We're going to talk because I want to get Anthony's thoughts. Everybody could just guess what my thoughts are going to be. So I want to hear Anthony's thoughts on what we've seen from Kershaw lately. JY says, I want Roki to fully recover and come back 100%. Having said that, Roberts sounded as if he was trying to be conservative to take pressure off of Roki. We're going to get to the full quotes on Dave Roberts, but we've said a couple of times, a couple of days ago, Dave Roberts said he expects all these guys to be back at some point this season. Roki was included in that group. We got a less optimistic update a day later, but I would just say as a starting point here, Anthony, the Dodgers have been conservative with every single one of their pitchers, and you could make a case based on what he has to offer the team in 2025. Roki deserves more caution and more patience than anybody else.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I think that for him, I would not be surprised if he doesn't pitch the rest of the season, but I also wouldn't be completely shocked if he found his way back into the rotation, in late August or September or something like that. I don't think we see him in October at all. I'll say that. But with him, I think they have enough reinforcements coming. I think it feels like, and so for them, I think that caution with him is probably twofold. I think it's to maybe ease some pressure on him. But also I think it's the fact that they probably don't think they need him and that he's not going to be a factor in October for them anyway. And we know that this team makes moves with that in mind, with the postseason in mind. And so I think given that understanding, they're probably not going to rush him back.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, we're going to get into a little bit more about what Dave Roberts had to say a little bit later. Don't care. I'm ready to move on from umps. Bring on the technology. Kirby Yates throws what should have been strike 3, and then the very next pitch gets hit out for a home run. Now, I am with all of the people that say he still threw the next pitch that ended up in the seats. Absolutely. And yet, if you're a pitcher and you throw a perfect pitch and don't get the strikeout, I feel a lot of sympathy for you. More of the blame belongs on the umpire than it does in Yates in my mind. Not to say that Yates is blameless, but I've said all along, Anthony, all the technology, just get the calls right. That's my view.
Yeah, I've always been a just get it right kind of guy. And look, you've experimented with it in in spring training, and I understand that they thought it was a quick turnaround to just say, okay, we're going to implement it in the regular season all of a sudden. But it's got to come into play next season. It has to. It was too successful during spring training. It's been too successful and easy and quick in the minor leagues during that experimentation. So yeah, I mean, it's got to come. Get the calls right.
Yeah, I'm with you. Let's get into this game that we saw today. The Dodgers beat the Giants 5-4. Andy Pages is the absolute hero of this game, Anthony. He leads off in the bottom of the first, gets a sac fly to get the Dodgers on the board. Tommy Edman, a home run in the second inning to extend the lead to 2-0. Dustin May, who we're going to talk a little bit about, he was not at his best. He gritted it out for the Dodgers, but the Giants loaded the bases in the second, did not score, got 3 runs off of him in the fourth, and then loaded the bases again in the fifth without scoring. So 3-2 Giants as we headed deeper into the game, but in the bottom of the fifth, with runners on second and third after Teoscar Hernandez struck out, Andy Pages gets a hanging slider and bangs it into left center field for a 3-run home run that gives the Dodgers a 5-3 lead that ends up standing up 5-4. But I mean, we keep talking about Pages, Anthony, and the run that he has been on. We should probably stop calling it a run because it's so long that it's not a run anymore. It's just how good he has been in the totality of 2025. And, I kind of said, I don't really know about the All-Star thing early on, but at some point the numbers are purely undeniable. And I think the trajectory we're on, Anthony, you're not going to be able to make a compelling case not to have him on the All-Star team the way he's been performing.
Yeah, he has certainly earned the consideration and the real kind of examination and debate or whatever it might be of where he fits on this in this all-star conversation, because like you said, it's not, this is more than a hot streak now. He's just sort of turned the corner on his season. He started out of the gate slow. Everything is magnified when it's at the start of the season. So we're probably a little harder on him than we might have been in like July. I think that this is kind of, you're seeing closer to what he probably actually is as an offensive threat than what we saw early when he was struggling. I don't think it's even necessarily like he'll meet somewhere in the middle and that's who he'll be. I think he was better than that all along. And we're finally starting to see that he is an all-star caliber offensive player for sure. And his defense in the corners is legit.
Yeah. I was just going to say, even with the struggles he had early on, the OPS is up to 800 now. The weighted runs created plus is 123. And again, if you just project this out a little bit, there's a decent chance by the time we get to the All-Star break, that weighted runs created plus is closer to 130 with, as you've described it, a lot of defensive metrics that like him. Now, I think the defensive metrics that describe Andy Pages as an elite center fielder are wrong, but you can't argue with the arm. You can't argue with his arm and how many guys he's thrown out on the base paths, let alone just at home plate by itself. And so, again, I think the totality of what Andy Pages is going to be able to present, I think when you just throw box scores in front of people, whether it's like, voting for the last guy or something like that,
right?
I think it's going to be undeniable based on what this guy does. And again, today was just a perfect example of that. He finishes the game 1 for 3, but with 4 RBIs and the 3-run homer and a sac fly. The Dodgers score 5 runs. He knocks in 4 of them on a day against the divisional rival that they kind of needed it.
Yeah. I think that the fan base has obviously come around. Anytime you're producing, that tends to happen. But I think he's also he's sort of cemented himself as a fixture in this lineup and a guy who is probably he's obviously more than a platoon player, and he's a guy where now you have to find ways to keep him in the lineup. Aside from the occasional off days or whatever, if maybe you really don't like a matchup or something like that. But for the most part, you're running him out there every day now.
Yeah, I'm with you. Some other numbers to get to on today. Again, Shohei Ohtani goes 3 for 3 with a walk, so not terrible for him. He's the only Dodger who actually had multiple hits in this game. He was the only Dodger, now that I see it, who actually reached base twice. Teoscar had the only other walk besides Ohtani. He was 0 for 3. And then Betts, Freeman, Pages, Rushing, and Edman each had one hit apiece. Of course, Tommy Edman had the home run there. And nice to see from Tommy Edman, a guy, as many people know, that I've kind of been skeptical of how serious the power was going to be. His first home run since the beginning of June, only his second home run since like April 22nd with an injury mixed in there. But look, every run counted today, Anthony, and that home run from Tommy Edman was a big one.
Yeah, big. This was his first or second since coming back off the IL.
It's his second home run since coming back. I think June 1st was his last home run prior to this one.
Yeah, so he's obviously had his share of struggles since he's returned from the ankle thing, and it's probably still bothering him. Like that kind of stuff tends to not go from bad to 100%. He's probably going to be dealing with this for the rest of the season. I mean, look at Freddie Freeman, right? Like he's still dealing with his. So hopefully he's finding something and finding a way to sort of deal with that, though, because he's going to be needed. Obviously, he's a versatile player and he can defend, and so he'll be out there for that. But I think when I see him sort of similar to Max Muncy. When he's going well, it's almost impossible to pitch this lineup. Yeah, like he's another one of those sort of connector kind of guys for me in this order, where even though it's just one dude, if he's producing, if he's hot, it just gives the lineup up. It feels like a lot more length and I think part of that is because of where both of those guys hit. It's sort of the second half of the batting order. And so when you got a guy like that on that second half of the lineup, there's no breathing room for the opposing pitching staff.
I'm with you. It just seems like he's a tough guy. He doesn't draw any walks, but it just feels like it's a grind probably to get this guy out because his bat is on everything. And, he just sort of finds ways to make things work. So again, Pages and Edman, kind of the heroes for the Dodgers on the offensive side. Let's talk pitching real quick. Dustin May on the mound for the Dodgers in this one. He finishes with a pretty respectable line in many ways. 6 innings pitched, 3 earned runs. If you just stop there, you'd say, hey, pretty good stuff. He allowed 10 base runners, just 3 strikeouts. But again, he gets through 6 innings, and then the bullpen comes in and gives up just 1 hit, 1 run, and strikes out 5. With May, you look a little bit beneath the surface here, and he was kind of a mess. I mentioned that in his 6 innings, they loaded the bases in the second and the fourth against him. He gives up 3 runs in the inning in between, but he's able to grind it out. Just 5 whiffs on 39 swings for Dustin May. What did you see from him tonight in what has been a stretch that I guess I could say at nicest inconsistent?
Yeah. He struggled a lot with the command. Even in the clean innings or the mostly clean innings, he just looked like he was struggling to locate. The sweeper. And I think because of that, the sweeper wasn't really fooling anybody. I think for him, he's a guy who has to be around the zone a lot to make the sweeper more devastating, because guys then are just laying off of it. Even if they don't recognize it, they can see it's a pitch that might be starting low or might be starting in or away on them, depending on what side of the plate they're hitting from. And they can just let it go. If he's around the zone, then they have to gear up for that pitch and look to swing. And he still had the movement. It was kind of the other stuff that he couldn't really locate. So he's having a little bit of a trend of having like a snowball kind of inning here and there in seems like in a lot of his starts. But credit to him in that he has been able to absorb that and then still lock in and give him another 1 or 2, put up another 0 or 2 in some of these starts. So look, he's a back end of the rotation kind of starter. I think he's sort of proving that now as he gets more innings under his belt, at least currently for now. And you know what? That's probably fine if that's how the Dodgers are going to use him, because he probably ends up being one of the better back end of the rotation pitchers in the National League. But yeah, the swing and miss stuff, we thought that maybe he had sort of, changed the tide on that. But I think it's sort of a game-to-game basis with him right now.
Yeah, 10 hard hit balls against him. And I should have added 6 hits, 4 walks, also 2 hit batters. So the whip of 2 is that's a really bad number.
And I think those 2 hit batters, I want to say both of them came with 2 strikes.
Could have been. Yeah.
I know one of them was like an 0-2 count.
Yeah, and one of them, well, in the fourth, when he gave up all of his runs, he got to 2 outs, but then single hit by pitch, single triple is how they scored all those runs. So loaded bases with 2 outs, nothing. Then with 2 outs, there's a rally, then loads the bases with 2 outs and gets nothing. So again, survives. But it is interesting, Anthony, when you start to project out. And again, I say this every time, as Dodgers fans, we've been trained our entire lives not to project anything else out. But there was a stretch at one point this season when you looked at Dustin May's kind of how his season began. He had like a 3.68 ERA through 4 starts. I should say his first 3 starts, he had a 1.06 ERA. Then he gets blown up. Then he kind of bounces back a little bit. But now you're starting to look forward and saying, like, Dustin May felt like maybe he was comfortably ahead of a guy like Emmet Sheehan once he came out, or maybe even a Clayton Kershaw once he came back. But now you can fast forward a little bit and say, could Dustin May be in a battle for that back of the rotation spot if guys do start to come back healthy like the Dodgers are projecting? Again, we don't need to have the full conversation, but I'm just tossing out the idea that a guy who felt like he was a pretty safe bet to be in the rotation, you could see a world where a month from now, they're trying to figure out what his role is.
Yeah, I think that for him, one positive for him, I think, is that even in some of these starts where he's had some of these, these blow up innings, is that he's still been able to come out and give them some length.
100%.
He went 6 today, technically a quality start, but he had that really ugly inning.
Yeah. And real quick on that note, he has not gone below 5 innings in any start this season. Like, right. 5 is the absolute basement. He's gone 6. I believe tonight was the 6th time this year he's given them 6 innings. So I'm not trying to discredit what May is providing, which is length and health in a stretch where they desperately needed that. Effectiveness is maybe the bigger question.
Yeah, I think at this point, it's going to be one of those guys coming in and taking that spot. And when I say spot, I don't think they necessarily move May like out of the rotation, but like where a certain guy, they're going to line up maybe an Emmet Sheehan, let's say, if he's getting the results ahead of May to pitch in like a big series or something like that, right?
Yeah.
But I think considering where this rotation is, there's a lot of value in that length that May is able to give them. And if he, which is stunning to say in June, the middle of June for Dustin May. But it's what it's been. And so I think with him, we have to adjust our expectations from where they were coming into the season. Now we've seen enough of a sample size from him to say, okay, yes, this guy is a back end of the rotation kind of starter, especially on this team when all of the options are available. And you're going to get some good and you're going to get some ugly probably. Yeah. And that's just how a back into the rotation guy kind of goes. Now his ceiling is probably higher than just about any like number 4 or 5 starter in the league. Yeah. He's capable of probably giving you 7 and 1 run or something like that. Like his stuff is that good when it's on. But I think we have to understand, like, you're going to get some ugly starts probably, or some ugly innings from Dustin May. But as long as he can keep giving them 5, 6, I think they're going to take it and live with kind of what he gives them.
Oh, 100%. 100%. And again, the results were good. Like, I see people in the chat saying, why are we talking like Dustin May pitched poorly today? Like, 6 innings, 3 earned runs is fantastic. Sure. 12 base runners is like playing with fire and juggling gasoline at the same time.
I was just going to say, this thing was on the verge for a lot of this start.
Twice.
We're getting completely out of hand.
Yeah. And he kept it on the rails. Kudos to him.
Credit to him. Absolutely.
The other big story on the Dodgers pitching staff that we have to talk about is Tanner Scott. This is similar to the Andy Pages arc in many ways. There was a stretch of the season where people were not pleased with this guy. What are we doing? Why did we pay him all this money? He stinks, yada, yada, yada. Perfect tonight. 1 inning, no hits, no walks, 3 strikeouts. He throws 13 pitches. 10 of them go for strikes. I haven't looked at his, at sort of like, let's see what his whiff. Yeah, I mean, 8 swings, 5 whiffs. So the whiff rate of north of 50% continues for Tanner Scott. This is the guy they paid a bunch of money for, Anthony, and tonight he was dominant.
Yeah, his last 8 starts, 1 earned run. Oh, I'm sorry, his last 8 appearances, 1 earned run. He's looking like kind of that dominant closer that they thought they were buying when they picked him up. And look, I hate to keep saying this whenever we talk about a guy who struggled early and is like back on track now, but like we said, let's be patient with this guy. And he even said it himself without like explicitly calling this out. He was like, yeah, this kind of happens to me every year. I start like this, or the velocity is down, or I fight myself with it early on, and then I kind of find it and I get right. He said this to us. And lo and behold, kind of here we are with him.
Yeah, absolutely. We got another super chat from Ivan. Said Pages should be batting no lower than 5th every day. I I would say sixth feels like the floor, but Anthony, the top three, Ohtani, Betts, and Freeman are locked in stone. And then you've got Will Smith and Teoscar Hernandez, fourth and fifth, usually in some order, with Pages sixth. Is Pages getting to a place where he needs to be moved ahead of either Smith or Teoscar in your estimation?
Not right now. I mean, Will Smith is. I mean, he's your starting all-star catcher, if you ask me.
Teoscar feels like more of where the conversation starts with this one.
Yes, I think that's where you're looking at right there. I mean, Teoscar hit one out today. So yeah, look, I think if Teoscar really just starts, it's just a long-term struggle for him, and he looks like he's starting to decline, which is not great for the Dodgers. But then I think you have that conversation. I kind of like him hitting sixth. I like when he's right, when Muncy's going well, you have those two guys behind that group. And like I said, it makes this lineup almost impossible to navigate for an opposing staff. Even when like managers are looking to go to their bullpen and what their options are, like it's a gauntlet. And then this is the thing that we talked about with this offense coming into the year, that they had the potential to be this. And we're starting to now finally see it as guys come around and get right. Muncy, one of them, if they can get Teo back on track, if Mookie can get back on track, especially as a power threat. Yeah, I mean, this becomes a lineup that is like legitimately 7 guys deep.
Yeah, exactly. And as it stands, by the way, Teoscar's slightly ahead of Andy Pages when it comes to OPS. He's got a higher slugging percentage. Pages has a higher on-base percentage. But again, I think if you're making the case for Andy Pages, you're saying, yes, that is all true. But tell me those stats from the last 60 days, the last 45 days when Andy Pages seems to have figured some things out.
Yeah.
But I'm with you. It's about lengthening this order, right? It's about being able to put Pages 7th, Tommy Edman 8th, and then Ha-Seong Kim or Michael Conforto 9th. Like that's the way you construct a lineup where all of a sudden your 7, 8, 9 guys are terrifying you all the way through. Guys are getting on base ahead of the top of your order, turning things over, more Ohtani at bats, more Betts at bats, more Freeman at bats. That is the secret sauce. So again, kudos to Andy Pages for inserting himself in this situation. If you would have taken me and you back in a time machine, and said on April, 21st, hey, Anthony, just so you know, you're going to be having a conversation about whether Andy Pages should jump Teoscar Hernandez in the Dodgers lineup because he's been that good. I'm not sure any of us would have believed that was coming.
Yeah, it was a hard thing to see at that time. Remember we were talking about we've seen a little bit of him. Yeah. Should it be him or Outman? Should they really consider taking another look at Outman? That was a conversation that was being had by some. And he's certainly sort of changed the tenor of how all of that is happening around him. So good for him. But I think that when it comes to lineup construction, the Dodgers like to have some flexibility there outside of that top 3. And so I think you're going to see Pages moved around a little bit depending on matchups and how other guys might be going and things like that. So we may say, 6th or 7th, we're going to see him probably hit 5th a little bit sometimes. I think they really do value that flexibility and what can optimize the lineup length as guys are, playing well. Because this was not an option that they really had up until a month ago.
Okay, we've got some breaking news that Matthew Moreno just passed on us from the stadium. We were just about to get to some injury updates. Dave Roberts is reporting to the media that Shohei Ohtani is going to pitch for the Dodgers this week. Wow. He'll be an opener in the coming days, 1 to 2 innings, but more likely 1 inning. So some breaking news, Shohei Ohtani pitching for the Dodgers against the Padres, likely, it sounds like, this season. He was scheduled to have to face hitters again at the beginning of this week. It appears, Anthony, those hitters will be wearing major league uniforms and they will not be members of the Dodgers organization. A pretty crazy, shocking announcement, given that we were north of 0. He comes back before the All-Star break. Well, how about this? Almost 100% that he's going to be back before the 3rd week of June.
Wow. This is awesome. And I like this role. It's something of a rehab assignment, something of a still getting him built up, but they're finding a way to get him into a game. I like that. Because he said he's not going to go down and do a minor league rehab assignment, right? So this is almost sort of acting like that for him. I like this idea a lot because they are in a position with rotation that they're going to need some bullpen games, and if you can mix him in there and the thing that is nice about this is he can treat this like a start in his pregame preparation and all of that kind of stuff. So I'm for this. This is great.
Yeah. What do you think about the idea of having him as like an opener, as has kind of been hinted at, this 1 to 2 inning type role? I mean, we've talked about this specific possibility when we said, well, he's got to face live hitters, and how do you do that, and how do you ramp him up? We literally said, what if you ramp him up? We said the same thing about Kasperius. Like, what if you ramp these guys up by just putting them in games and allowing him to go through the full pregame warm-up as if he's the starting pitcher and get into an opener? We had this exact conversation. Now it's happening. So what strikes you about the way the Dodgers are kind of going with this hybrid model of rehab assignment / live batting practice / doing it for real?
Yeah, and that was sort of what I was saying. I think I like this because it acts as his rehab, as his buildup, but he's doing it in innings that count, in innings that matter, against major league hitters, and it's fulfilling a need for the Dodgers because they are going to have some bullpen games here and there. I think they have 2 coming up in this next week, and so if you can get him in there and fill that kind of role, you're killing a bunch of birds with just this one stone. You're building him up, and these are his rehab assignments. You're helping out. You're buying an inning for the rest of your bullpen, maybe 2 innings for the rest of your bullpen in these bullpen games. And he's facing live real hitters. So I'm all for this. I think this is really, really good news, and tells me that he's going to be a real starting pitcher sometime soon for the Los Angeles Dodgers, which we knew this was the deal when we signed him to that contract. But now that it's actually a reality, like, I'm giddy. Yes, let's do this.
I love one person in the comments, Matty Man, saying, and this buries the Rafael Devers news for the Giants fans in the media cycle. So I love that. We got to be a little petty there. But selfishly, there's also, one of the things that you have to remember, I was going to say selfishly, I hope it's Tuesday before we have our live show on Tuesday night that he becomes the opener. But that's the other piece of the Ohtani thing that we've kind of talked about, but as Dodgers fans, we haven't been able to actually experience, which is when Ohtani is able to pitch, the Dodgers have an advantage over every other team in Major League Baseball in that they get to carry 14 pitchers. No other team in Major League Baseball gets 13 pitchers plus a two-way player. They are the only franchise that has that ability because Shohei Ohtani has that ability. And so in a stretch, Anthony, when the Dodgers are looking ahead to this 4-game series with the Padres, 10 games in 10 days, and they already have built in Ben Kasperius pitching one of those games, which he's not fully stretched out to being a starter, might need an opener. Game 2 is set to be a bullpen game. Game 3 is set to be Emmet Sheehan, who's going to be making his Major League debut. The fact that you get a 14th pitcher, now he's only going to pitch once, but the fact that you basically you have to cover 2 less innings because you have Shohei Ohtani, we cannot overstate how valuable that is. Big picture, but also very small picture this week.
No, it's a big deal because you're looking at, that's 2 arms you don't have to burn.
Yeah.
If he gives you 2 innings.
Exactly.
That becomes, in a bullpen game, that becomes a big deal.
Yeah, totally. And again, in a week where you've got 10 games in 10 days and you got 4 against the Padres and you're already short-staffed on the pitching side, I think all of that is huge. Let's go to some of the Ohtani quotes. It's interesting. We were prepared to talk about it because Dave Roberts had said last week, north of 0, the odds that Shohei Ohtani pitches for the Dodgers before the All-Star break. Ohtani was asked about it, and he kind of laughed, and he said, well, what do you think? And then said something like that. But this was the key quote to me, Anthony, that in hindsight, I look back on and say, maybe Ohtani knew something. He says, I think it all has to do with pitch counts. With the last live batting practice, I felt the intensity was there, and I felt like my stuff was game ready. I felt like the intensity was there, and I felt like my stuff was game ready. If the stuff is game ready, let's freaking go, Anthony.
Yeah, get them in a game then. I'm with you. And that's why I like this, because they're going to build him up in major league games.
Yep.
And knowing that they have these constraints with the rotation because of the other injuries, aside from them needing all the help they can get, this is just a good idea. If he feels like he's big league ready, the final hurdle now is just getting him built up. And why does he need to do that in minor leagues? Let him go out and face big league hitters for an inning. You know what I mean? And then he could throw other bullpens to continue to build that pitch count. with while he's all with the Dodgers. Like, this is fine. I imagine this was probably their plan the entire time. The timeline maybe just got moved forward.
Yeah, exactly. And Dave Roberts was asked if this next appearance by Shohei Ohtani, facing hitters at the beginning of the week, would be his last before pitching in a big league game. And Roberts said potentially. So again, read into this about when this decision was made, but nothing happened today, presumably, that would change their mind on the structure, because Dustin May went 6. It's not like they're now more desperate than they expected to be for pitching in the coming days. And so, again, the breaking news from Dave Roberts is that Shohei Ohtani will make his debut as a pitcher for the Dodgers at some point this week, likely against the Padres, who they play Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And I'm fired up, Anthony. I mean, they beat the Giants, and we're going to get to the move that the Giants made, but they beat the Giants. The Giants make some big acquisition. They're like, look at us. We got Rafael Devers. And the Dodgers said, well, look at us. We got Shohei Ohtani, the pitcher, Cy Young caliber starting pitcher. So take that, San Francisco Giants.
Yeah. This is, I think I like this so much because it feels a real need for this team right now. Like, it's not just like, oh yeah, we want him back, and you know what, we'll throw him out there, and we have all these other starters who are, ready to also pitch for us. They have a need here, and this allows them to fill that with potentially a guy who's going to be in a Cy Young race, maybe next season. And so this is great. I think this is the first domino to fall in, like, all these pitchers hopefully starting to come back.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Let's get into some of those other injury updates. Speaking of, Dave Roberts said a couple days ago, we're very confident that we're going to get Snell, Glasnow, Sasaki, and Sheehan back. That was before the Roki update. We talked about Ohtani, but let's talk about Roki Sasaki. This was the quote that we got from Dave Roberts. Quote, he's just not feeling that he can kind of ramp it up. So I gather that we're trying to hold the baseball a little bit until he feels like we can get going again. So I think it's with the medical staff, with Roki's comfort, all that, not feeling like we're going to push him to do something he doesn't feel good about right now. And I don't know if it's pain. I just don't know. It's more of a question of Roki, to be honest. More of a question for Roki, to be quite honest with you, as far as the sensation. It's discomfort. I don't think it's pain. It's tightness. It could be just not feeling strong. Whatever the adjective you want to use, I'd rather him say that. Your thoughts?
Yeah. I've convinced myself that anytime we might see this guy again this season is just a bonus.
Yep.
I'm there with it. And I think it's fine. They got to think long-term with him. And even when he was throwing, he wasn't very good anyway. So it's not like they lost an ace. They lost a guy who was struggling even to probably stay in the rotation. And so for me, if this means that they feel like they can get him right and healthy and there won't be any pressure on him to rush back, I'm fine with it.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, we've talked about, we all believe in Roki Sasaki long-term, but I think it's safe to say we've reached a point where even if he was healthy, the level of impact that we would expect, that would be fair to expect from Roki Sasaki based on what we've seen from him at the major league level this season, is just not enough to justify risking anything, right? No. Like, you could talk me into, if Blake Snell, if it's, the middle of September and Blake Snell's like, look, I'm 90 to 95% sure, I'll take Blake Snell 90 to 95% available, because that's game changing. Roki Sasaki, even at 100%, might not be game changing. And so you have this guy for 6 or 7 years. Take your time, be patient, allow this to develop the way that it needs to develop. And then we'll worry about 2026 or 2027 or whatever when those come.
And even if he gets right, like Jeff, like, let's say after the All-Star break, he declares himself 100% healthy. He's been throwing bullpens, like, he's there. Do you even think that he's like, we don't know what his effectiveness is, right? Like, it's like I said before, it's not like you've lost an ace and you're rushing to get this guy back. I think what you said is right on, in that you look to get him right for the long-term need, not the this season need, because even if he does come back this season, who's to say that he'll be good, or the guy that we are hoping and expecting that he eventually becomes? That's not going to happen now.
Yeah.
Even if he's completely healthy, he doesn't suddenly become that guy after what we've already seen so far. He can be better, and sure, he may be able to contribute, but he's not going to be that guy where you're like, we need him in October. He's a big piece. I don't think he
Yeah.
gets to that point this year.
Yeah. On the other hand, a gentleman by the name of Emmet Sheehan might be a guy that I think you could project out
Different
and say
story.
he could make an impact at some role. Fabian Ardaya reporting on Saturday that Sheehan's next start will be with the Dodgers, 13 months removed from Tommy John surgery. The expectation is probably Wednesday is when Sheehan will start. He last pitched on Thursday. He made 4 appearances at AAA, 2 innings, 3 innings, 3 innings, and 3 1/3. The first 3 were awesome. The fourth one was his worst by far, and yet he finishes 11 1/3 innings, 10 hits, 5 runs, 1 walk. But how about this number? 21 strikeouts in 11 1/3 from Emmet Sheehan. The fastball is alive, 97-98. So a little bit ahead of schedule here, Anthony, but we know the Dodgers need help. So if you're going to give us 4, maybe 5 innings somewhere, we'll take it at the big league level.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this is part need, part a little bit innovation. We've talked about it sort of with Ohtani as well, but like as guys are, once they are convinced that a guy is healthy,
Yeah.
they're going to start letting them build up against big league hitters, not in Rancho, not in OKC. You
Right.
know, they're going to use those bullets, those innings in real games that matter for the Los Angeles Dodgers, for the big
Because they don't
club.
have better alternatives. Like, would you want a bullpen game or do you want Emmet Sheehan to finish his rehab assignment at Dodger Stadium?
Right. And I think, like I said, I think it's need on this side, and it's a little like, you know what, we're going to just start doing this now, even if we have other guys who are healthy.
Yeah.
And so I think that for the need is the bigger, you know, that weighs heavier on the scale right now, and so that's why this is such a big deal. If they were all fully healthy, like we would be excited about this, but we would be like, okay, you know, let's see how he does wherever he's at, a couple more starts or something. Right. And now they have this need. And so we get to see this guy who has, I think, the ceiling to be a front end kind of starter. And he's about to be back. And again, another domino that falls in terms of the guys that we're hoping get back into the rotation. You know, he's the next one. So now you get big news on Ohtani, you get big news on Sheehan starting to come together, Jeff.
Yeah. I mean, you look at the rotation, the way that it could be shaking out. Obviously, Yamamoto is still the ace. Kershaw, who we're going to talk about here in just a second, Dustin May, Emmet Sheehan, if he's back, and then Ben Kasparius, if they're building him up. All of a sudden, you've got 5 guys right there. If Shohei Ohtani is working his way back, he gave 3 innings in a live simulated game. So it's not like we're starting from absolute scratch here.
Right.
Like he might be a couple weeks away from being able to give you 4 or 5 innings, if not more. And so all of a sudden, you've got the makings of a little bit of a rotation here, Anthony, before we get to all of the other sort of moving pieces that they could filter in. Justin Robleski's had a couple nice outings in a row. Landon Knack, we know, has not been awesome this year necessarily, but has been good on the whole if you factor in what we saw from him last year as well. And so, again, as Dodgers fans, we're not allowed to say you have a surplus or an excess of starting pitching. But it might be true, Anthony, that we're like 2 weeks removed from having bullpen game be part of our regular vocabulary.
Yeah, and that's exciting in itself because you know what? The bullpen needs a breather.
Yep, they do. They do.
And so even with some of the guys who have just kind of come back from injury, you know, this bullpen needs to be as fresh as possible for when it matters most in October. And the biggest way for them to be that is by the rotation doing its job and being healthy and giving them those innings. And so, you know, we've just taken 2 big steps in the right direction, I think, for this rotation to be able to do that.
Absolutely. Tim with the super chat. Can't wait to see Shohei pitch again. Well, again, Tim, great news. You will not have to wait very long. At some point in the next 3 or 4 days, it sounds like Shohei Ohtani is going to be making his pitching debut for the Los Angeles Dodgers, not only in 2025, but he didn't pitch at all last year. So it'll be the first time we ever get to see him pitch in a game that counts while wearing a Dodgers uniform. Speaking of pitching, let's talk Clayton Kershaw. He pitched last night and was freaking awesome. 7 unbelievable innings. I tweeted out that if you remove his first start back, since then it's a 1.90 ERA for Clayton Kershaw. Even the strikeouts have started to tick up. I said, look, I'm expecting 3 to 4 per game. I think this is 2 in a row where maybe he had 6 and then he had 7 or something like that. But where are you at on Kershaw? Are you ready to be back in again? Nobody's projecting Clayton Kershaw to be a Cy Young caliber guy or even an all-star level pitcher. But are you all the way in on Kershaw being a guy whose ERA starts with a 3 and not a 4?
Yeah. I am. I think we said, like, when he was, right around the time when we knew that he was going to be coming back sometime soon, we thought that he's going to be able to contribute. How many innings, how many starts can he give them? That was, I think, more of the question. I think if he's healthy, we've said this before, when he has been healthy, last year he wasn't healthy. When he's been healthy, he's been a quality starter.
Always.
Like, I mean, to the point where,
like a ERA starts with a 2 guy whenever he's been healthy.
Exactly. And I think, like, in certain situations, if he had enough starts, if he had enough outings, like, he's an all-star caliber starting pitcher still.
Yeah.
So for me, it was just, it was a durability question, not so much how effective can he be. I mean, again, last season was not healthy. 4.5 ERA. Before that, 2.46. Before that, 2.28.
Yeah.
Before that, a 3.55, kind of a down year there in 21. And then in 20, that was the COVID season. He made 10 starts, a 2.16. 2019, a 3.03. 2.73 the year before. So you get where I'm going with this.
Well, and let me just add one addendum, because even last year, if his last start was 1 inning, 3 earned, the start before that was 5 innings, 5 earned. It was clear that we were getting a diminished Kershaw in the last 6 innings we saw him. Heading into that second to last start, he had a 2.63 ERA last season through, his first 5 starts of the season. Then he gets hurt, gets roughed up a little bit, ends with a 4.5 ERA. But even last year, when healthy,
he was good. Yeah. So yeah, for me, it's never been about effectiveness with him. Let's say they get Ohtani is built up, Snell is back, Yamamoto's the guy. There's going to be a battle for that 4th guy, and not saying necessarily like what order that any of these guys would throw, aside from Yamamoto probably being your 1. Kershaw is right there, and I think probably at this point should be that 4th guy that we're talking about in a playoff rotation. And so
that's Glasnow. I mean, we can throw Glasnow in there if he's healthy. If anybody wants to project that, you're welcome to.
If he's healthy, yes, then there's, those are different conversations, and maybe it's matchup dependent because one guy's lefty, one guy's righty, whatever. But my larger point is that he is in that conversation.
Yeah. We got a little bit updated breaking news from Dave Roberts. Shohei Ohtani will be starting for the Los Angeles Dodgers tomorrow against the Padres in game 1 of the series. So if your Monday night wasn't already cleared, let me introduce you to a gentleman by the name of Shohei Ohtani, who's going to be pitching. Presumably Ben Kasperi is coming in after him. That's the expectation. And Dave said pregame they were considering an opener for Ben Kasperi. He just kind of buried the lead about who that opener might be, because it's a guy by the name of Shohei Ohtani, not some nobody. It's not High Levy Lou coming in to start the game tomorrow, Anthony. It's Shohei Ohtani, the greatest player in the world.
Yeah, this is like I said, this is step 1 into what is already kind of a historic career, but the continuation of this guy being an all-star level player on both sides of the ball. Can't wait to see it. He's going to throw his first pitch for the Dodgers tomorrow. Like I said earlier, I'm giddy.
It's crazy stuff. I got to check my schedule, make sure I wasn't the idiot that scheduled something for a Monday night during the Dodgers game. No, we're good. We're good. Sorry, NBA finals, the final, whatever sporting event's happening tomorrow. I think there's a finals game. Apologies, because Shohei Ohtani is going to be starting against the Padres at Dodger Stadium, and I will be tuned into that instead. As Dodger Blue points out, we might need to switch our live to tomorrow night. Stay tuned, because maybe we'll be going live tomorrow. Ohtani making his first appearance as a Dodger, I think, justifies that. So stay tuned. We might be having a special edition of the DodgerHeads show tomorrow night on that one.
So quickly, Jeff, there's a second little update that we have here. Fabian Ardaya from The Athletic is just posted some quotes from Dave Roberts about Roki.
Okay.
A little bit of a different tune than we heard earlier.
These are the quotes that are getting buried in the Ohtani announcement, is what you're saying? Like, Roki Sasaki might be cooked for like 18 months. Did I mention Shohei Ohtani starting tomorrow, though? Did everybody hear that part?
Right. Right.
You're in PR, Anthony. You know how this works. Give me the Roki quotes.
Exactly. So just a quick recap. Earlier for the game and over the last couple of days, Dave had said that Roki had stopped throwing. Basically, they were shutting him down. He wasn't feeling great with the shoulder. No new testing, but basically he was getting shut down. Post game here, Fabian is reporting that Dave says Roki's pain-free. When we start that buildup, it should be soon. He's already moving around. We all feel encouraged where he's at right now as far as the pain. So a little bit of a different thing than what we heard earlier. So maybe there's a little more optimism there.
So you feel more optimistic hearing the quotes from Dave Roberts, not more pessimistic.
No, I think I feel more optimistic. And we know Dave has a track record of saying things that maybe the front office has to ask him to correct later.
Yeah.
This feels like one of those situations. And so, a little more optimistic, just not so much that okay, hey, Roki's starting game 1 of the NLCS. Sorry, guys. It's not that optimism. It's the optimism that maybe he avoids the knife, that kind of thing.
Yeah. I love the quote. He's already moving around. It's did I mention he's able to walk? He can use both of his arms. He's eating. He's feeding himself at the moment. Just to be clear, if anybody got other options, he is if you just read this, if I'm going to read this quote and I want you to have the most pessimistic, Dave is lying to me, this is meaningless lens on. He's pain-free. When we start the build-up, should be soon. He's moving around. He's already moving around. We all feel very encouraged with where he's at right now. As far as the pain, we're encouraged about the pain. And did I mention he's moving around? The arms and legs all work for Roki Sasaki. And, that's soon on the build-up. Soon, sometime.
And again, this is good because I think after what we heard, for me at least, there was a serious, I was wondering seriously, is he going to need surgery?
Yeah, for real. Totally fair.
This makes it sound like maybe he's gonna duck that.
Okay. I'm with you.
Maybe, but I'll say this: this is a better report from Dave than what we got before.
Yeah, and typically I will say this. This is my theory. This is my theory on Dave Roberts quotes. If he tells you something for the very first time, you should be skeptical because he might not know entirely what he's saying and how it's being perceived. But if he doubles down on it, if he gives you the same update or a slightly better update the next day, then he's probably correcting what may have been a misconception about his first one.
Yes.
So that's how I read things, at least.
No, totally. And that's what I think. When I mentioned that, I think sometimes Dave has to go out and correct himself after maybe he says something. It's because the training staff or someone from the front office is coming and saying, hey, Dave, this isn't completely accurate. We need to set the record straight here.
Yeah.
I think we've talked about this before too. We've said this on this show. When a guy is not close to coming back, position player, pitcher, whoever, Dave doesn't have all the intel on what's going on with this guy day to day. He gets quick reports on a guy like Roki because Roki's not even throwing off a mound. So that is none of Dave's concern currently. His concern is the guys who are available to him and who can play against the Padres and the Giants. And so that what he said before may have been a quick conversation he had with whoever, and he was relaying what his interpretation of that conversation was, and it was actually not the correct one. And so someone has corrected him, and he came out and gave probably a more accurate version of what that conversation actually was.
For sure. Fritz with the super chat. I have tickets for tomorrow. Happy Father's Day to me. Absolutely.
Nice.
You get to say you were there. And look, Kasparius. Everybody loves Kasparius. So you're going to get to see Ohtani and Kasparius. Hopefully, imagine if they get 7 innings from those two guys tomorrow. I think that's a best case scenario, to say the least. But good news for the Dodgers, and enjoy that game, Fritz. If we do a post game, maybe join us in the car on the way home from Dodger Stadium for that one. Okay, we're going to get to questions here in just a second. Here we go. Jose, excuse me. Ohtani expectations. Would Nat start be better? Not sure what the second part means, but what are your expectations for Ohtani? We know he pitched a simulated game against minor leaguers and was awesome. Do you think he's going to be are you expecting rust, or you were expecting him to be awesome? He said Nationals. He's saying
Nationals.
Should they have waited until after the Padres series against the Nationals? Thank you, Jose.
Yeah, no. I want to see him as soon as possible, as soon as he's ready. And it sounded like the Dodgers the Dodgers waited on Ohtani to give them this green light, based on some of the quotes I've seen on social. After that last session, he came and told them, I'm ready. And this is how this is happening now. So I expect him. It's only one inning, right? So it's hard to
1-2. 1-2.
1-2. I would imagine he gets one, unless he's got like a 6-pitch inning or something like that. But like, let's say it's one inning. I'm more looking at how his stuff looks and what his command looks like. Yeah. That's kind of the thing that I'll be focused on, because it's hard to get too much. It's hard to get too much intel just on.
It'll be a small sample.
Yeah, such a small sample. But I think if his stuff looks sharp and his command looks good, we're on our way, baby.
Yeah. And again, he has said the stuff is ready. I'm with you. Command is where I'm going to be concerned. Like, if you're going to tell me that 65% of his pitches are landing in the strike zone, then I wouldn't be surprised to see, him go 1 2/3 with 2 strikeouts, a pair of base runners kind of thing. Like, I think the swing and miss is going to be there from the get-go. I think he's going to be amped up. And so, I wouldn't be surprised if we see some big numbers on the radar gun.
Radar gun, yeah. I mean, during in the non-adrenaline filled outings that he's had so far, I think he's gotten to 97, and the guys that he's faced, the big league hitters that he's faced, has said like the stuff looks great.
Yeah, and I'm with you. If he's available, they need him. First of all, 10 games in 10 days. Any break that they can get their guys, the better. They were expecting early in the week, so I think his pitching schedule is earlier in the week is when he was expecting to go. So if they waited till the National Series, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, that would throw things off. But to Anthony's point, keep in mind, if he pitches Monday, then the buildup has started. And then again, he can pitch, 6 days later on Sunday, and maybe it's 2 innings the first time and it's 3 innings the next time. And, we're 6 days closer to Shohei Ohtani unleashed as a starting pitcher, which I think is not an insignificant thing, obviously. And so, again, if you missed it, the breaking news, Shohei Ohtani, not only coming back this week, but starting for the Dodgers tomorrow, 1 2 innings is the expectation. I do want to talk real quick about the big trade that happened. The Dodgers are playing the Giants. They shocked the world with a trade for Rafael Devers from the Boston Red Sox. They send Jordan Hicks, Kyle Harrison, who's expected to pitch today against the Dodgers, as well as their number 5 overall prospect, who was their first-round pick in 2024, and a 20-year-old who I didn't see, at least on like any of the top 30 prospect type lists there. He has 7.5 years left on a $315 million contract that he signed. There was the drama around Devers. He wanted to play third base. They didn't think he was good enough to play third. So they made him the DH. He pouted about it. Then they asked him to play first because somebody got injured, and he said no. He's now a Giant. All that said, the positivity, he's one of the best hitters in Major League Baseball. He continues to be awesome. He's a 4.5 win player over the last 4 years. So briefly, like, as Dodgers fans, our rival, the San Francisco Giants, if you want to call them rivals, we can get into that debate if we want to later. But the San Francisco Giants just traded for one of the best hitters in baseball, and he's going to be around for the next 7.5 years. I'm curious your immediate thoughts on the move.
If the Dodgers made this trade, we'd be going nuts.
Yeah.
This guy is that good. He's a top 10 offensive player in Major League Baseball, and that is the floor for him right now. So they got a guy who on the offensive end is like MVP caliber production kind of guy. And they got him long-term. He's not a rental by any means. And so this it's baseball. So it's not like in the NBA where like you trade for like a dominant star and like he really changes, like Luka, he changes your outlook. Right.
In theory, Luka changes your outlook, but here we are watching.
We don't have to get into all that, but like you know where I'm going with it.
Yeah.
And so Devers is that kind of offensive weapon now. And it shifts. It doesn't completely change, but it shifts sort of the landscape and the outlook for what the National League West looks like, not just for the rest of this season, but again, this is a long-term move. He's in the second season of a 10-year extension.
I think it's the third season of the 10-year extension. So I think he's got 7 years plus the rest of this one.
Gotcha. Okay. So we're going to be dealing with this dude for a while, and he's going to be the next guy that Dodger fans love to hate. And that's the question. And that's why the ESPN broadcast, and that's why we talked about this, because it is a big deal. It's one of the best hitters in baseball, changing leagues, changing teams. And the team that was on the broadcast, one of the teams, is the team that he's going to. It's a big move.
Yeah. And I would say this, if I was a Giants fan, I would be excited for a bunch of reasons. One, he's really freaking good and he's an incredible hitter. The second thing is we know the Giants have gone after all of the top free agents and struck out. Like they can't get guys to sign free agent contracts to go there. So this is a win for the Giants because this is probably the highest caliber of player that the Giants could ever attract or trade for or sign or that kind of thing. They also gave up very little. like everyone kept waiting for the shoe to drop of the next prospect. And it was like, so it's their number 5 prospect, Jordan Hicks, who's like, sure, whatever. Kyle Harrison, who like might be good, and a 20-year-old who's like in the complex league somewhere. Like that was the trade. So they didn't give up a bunch. Now, as a Dodgers fan, let me tell you a couple reasons why you might be excited to know that the Giants just traded for this guy. There's obviously the drama about him not being good at third base, him pouting about not playing third base, him refusing to play first base when they asked him to. Whether they've got all that sorted out, whether that's in the rear view, we'll see. They've got Matt Chapman, who's way more entrenched at third base than anybody the Red Sox have. And so they're going to find ways to get him in, but it might actually be as a DH. But the second thing, and Anthony, you and I talked a little bit about this on social media, is the contract. There's 7.5 years left. Jeff Passan tweeted this. The blockbuster has executives across baseball confounded. On one hand, the Red Sox got out from a deal every model in baseball has at underwater and got talent back. On the other, a team with talent and momentum just traded its best hitter. So the second piece of this is the Giants, yes, they traded for Devers, and yes, he has 7.5 years left. That might not be a good thing, according to some people in baseball, to be paying him that number for the next 7.5 years. So that's, I think, the yin and the yang of this. Yes, he's a great hitter. He's going to help them this year, next year, the next couple of years for sure. It also might be an albatross of a contract a la Xander Bogaerts moving forward for one of our divisional rivals.
Yeah, definitely. I think that in the near term, like the next 2, 3, 4 seasons, this is the anchor of their offense.
Yeah.
Going forward beyond that, it's a big question mark, I think. And does he stay in shape, healthy enough to continue to produce? What do his numbers look like in that ballpark now?
Yeah.
That's also going to be a change for him. It's a big reason why you mentioned this a second ago. It's a big reason why the Giants, to do a move like this, have to do it via trade, because free agent big time bats are not looking to go to San Francisco to hit.
Yeah, exactly.
And they had to massively overpay for Willy Adames, and we've sort of seen he's coming around now, but we've sort of seen how that's gone for the most part of this season. Hasn't been great from an offensive standpoint for Adames, and so they had to make an aggressive move, and they're going to always have to overpay for offensive talent like this.
Yeah.
The fact that they didn't really have to overpay is interesting. And I think while this, like I said earlier, shifts sort of the landscape of the National League West going forward, Red Sox fans have to be pissed. And I think also, like, this is a completely separate thing, but the Red Sox better spend that money that they're saving, or else there might be a revolt from Red Sox Nation, because they've mismanaged and bungled this thing from every possible direction ever since the Mookie Betts trade.
Yeah. You mentioned that it's going to change the complexion of the NL West. That was kind of the last point I wanted to make here.
Yeah.
I'm actually not sure that's the case. And here's what I mean. Like, we just played the Giants. I was on a bunch of text threads that were like, does anybody know who half these guys in the lineup are? Like, I know Willy Adames was their big free agent signing. He's been really, really bad this season, although maybe the last week he's kind of started to figure it out. This Giants team, I know where they're at in the standings. They just don't feel like, to me, Anthony, they're a Rafael Devers away from being competitive. And we just talked about the timelines. Like, this is a guy whose timeline is coming to an end. And so even if you want to make the case, hey, they have young talent, some of these guys that are about to start coming up and make a difference, this to me feels like if I was an outsider and I was skeptical of, like, can Buster Posey actually do this job? Just because you are a good player and a smart guy doesn't necessarily make you the next great general manager, executive, etc. I would be skeptical of this. This makes sense on paper. You get a lot of great headlines from this. Giants fans are going to be thrilled. But if you ask me to pick, like, 4 years from now, are we looking back on this trade as like a roaring success or a potential devastating failure? I might actually go failure side.
I think you have to set parameters on what those expectations are then.
Fair.
Because, like I said, the Giants don't have they don't have any chance to go and get a big bat any other way. And
And it
so
didn't cost them that much as far as assets had to be sent out the door, which is fair.
correct. And he's not the perfect player. Like they're not getting Aaron Judge, right? Like they weren't getting Bryce Harper in his prime when he was in the MVP conversation, annually. And so I think we have to set expectations and what those look like. Like if you're going, is this guy offensively Shohei Ohtani? No, then it's going to be a failure. But is this guy a middle of the order anchor for the next handful of seasons? Probably so.
I'm talking team success, and I should have clarified that. I'm talking like I don't now look at the Giants as this team that I have to be afraid of for the next 3 or 4 years. I still think the Padres are better than the Giants, even with this trade. My view.
If they do nothing else, then I'm with you. Okay. I'm with you. And like I said, and that's why I made the NBA comparison, because it's not like, you can trade for one guy and he changes sort of what the expectations of that team can be based. You get 4 tries a game, maybe 5 tries a game to change it.
Especially as a DH who's not going to be playing the field positively either.
Exactly. So it's a different beast. But as much as a guy or a bat can change a team like this, he's one of those dudes. Now, we said before this series, I think it was last week, I think we might have been asked, like, do the Giants hang around or what, it was something along those lines that we were discussing. And I said, look, they have the pitching. I think their pitching holds up. I just don't think they can score enough. They did something today to at least start to address that problem.
Yeah. Jedi Engineer with the super chat. Do you think Posey will be better at communicating about position changes than Boston was? I mean, I think the Giants have the advantage of being the second person, right? Like they didn't have to break the news to Rafael Devers that he stinks at defense and that he's not going to be playing in the field anymore. Now the Giants come in. The Red Sox have already navigated all of that. Now, they probably have to rehab the conversation, and maybe they're going to let him play first base. Maybe he's going to be excited about that if they tell him you're our long-term guy here, although their top prospect is a first baseman, so don't get too comfortable there, Rafael. But like that, the only thing I would be hoping for if I was Buster Posey is that A, I'm a former player who holds some cachet, and so maybe he'll listen to me more, and B, he's already just accepted that he's going to be a DH and that we don't even really have to have this conversation. That would be my hope if I was the Giants.
Yeah. I think the thing that we're missing here is what Devers' true feelings are about all this. And the early reports were like that he was excited about the trade, but like he's still not getting what he wants. And maybe all he wanted at the end of this was out of Boston. That. And so yeah, there he is, and he's being dropped into the middle of a division race that the new team is in the thick of. So yeah, they need more than Devers. I'm with you on that. I don't think this makes them better. This doesn't make them better than the Dodgers.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally agree. Good way to put a bow on that one. Let's get to some questions, folks. All caps questions. We've got about 5 to 10 minutes left to take those. Again, if you missed the news, Shohei Ohtani starting for the Dodgers tomorrow. 1 to 2 innings is the expectation. Ben Kasparius is scheduled to be the bulk guy, but 4-game stretch against the Padres. Dylan Cease on the mound for the Padres. Then you get Vasquez, who we saw last week is not very good. Kolek, who, I would say 3.5 ERA and 8 starts. That sounds good. Lots of ground balls. Some of the underlying metrics, bottom 10% in hard hit rate and exit velocity. And then last you get Bergert, who's a prospect that's made 3 starts and 4 relief appearances, 2.93 ERA as a starter. So Cease, Vasquez, Kolek, and Bergert, the 4 going for the Padres. Ohtani and Kasparius in game 1, bullpen game in game 2, Emmet Sheehan season debut likely on Wednesday, and then Yamamoto in the closing spot. We have a super chat here from Cordenas who says, I'm going to Saturday's games against the Nats and next Wednesday at the Rockies. Help me figure out who I might see. Honestly, Saturday, you would probably see Dustin May Saturday, because it's probably Kershaw Friday. Yeah, Dustin May Saturday, which is probably not the news you were hoping for. Next Wednesday would be probably Yamamoto. So there you go. Some good news and some bad news, I suppose. Yeah. Likely Yamamoto. He's been on a 6-day rotation. So I would guess likely Yamamoto on Thursday, on Wednesday, or Sheehan or Yamamoto. I'd have to look at how the off days go after this.
And they may not stick strictly to a 5 days rest thing. They may shuffle things around too, especially with those 2 guys.
Yeah. Because I know the Dodgers have an off day on Monday, so that's the only reason I was hesitant to say who you're going to get to see next Wednesday. Sometimes ESPN ESPN has Yamamoto projected for Tuesday and Kershaw for Wednesday, but that doesn't seem right. So I would guess Yamamoto would be my guess. Okay. Nomo Splitter. Derek wants to know what is the Dodgers' long-term plan at third base? Max Muncy could potentially come back next season. I believe they have a team option, which for a while seemed like an easy no. Now seems like an easy yes. It's at like $12 million. It's a really good number for the Dodgers. He's clearly not the long-term play at third base. It does not seem like Ha-Seong Kim is the long-term play at third base either. So on the note of Rafael Devers coming into the NL West, do the Dodgers have a plan long-term at third base?
Yeah, this is a good question. I don't know what it is. Because also I think you have to question what is the long-term plan at shortstop. I think for the near term, meaning the next couple seasons at least, it's Mookie. Do they move? Does he eventually move to second? How does this roster, sort of play out after that? And because then you have the question of where does Alex Freeland come in? He's an internal option. Do they have to go outside the organization? I think if you're talking strictly third base right now, everybody else is sort of set at where they are or around where they are. I think the next option is probably external, and who that name might be, I don't know.
Yeah. It's a great point. Obviously Mookie Betts, they've got to find something for him to do long-term. Alex Freeland is coming up. He has played some third base, so he could be an option. There's been speculation of do they ever move Will Smith to third? I don't think that's ever going to happen. So I think Freeland is a potential name. Who knows what they do with Ha-Seong Kim? Because you've got to figure out a place for Tommy Edman long-term, Mookie Betts long-term, and Ha-Seong Kim long-term. That could be your up the middle, second base, shortstop, center field.
Yeah.
However, as Tommy Edman ages and Ha-Seong Kim hasn't really proven he can play there. So we'll see. Good question though. Eden wants to know, is this a 6-man rotation now? What do you think, Anthony?
Yeah, I think so. They've just been waiting to basically get one more reliable arm back to start this back up again. So I would say Sheehan gives them that. The Ohtani stuff, we'll sort of see how the buildup goes and all of that. But yes, I think as soon as they have that option back available to them, they will start to restructure the rotation with off days and things like that. So that way, at least some of the guys, Kershaw may want to stay on normal rest. But I think some of these other guys like Yamamoto, they'll start to try to build in that extra day for them again.
Okay, quick one from Ederico. How many NL West teams make the playoffs? The race in that division is tight right now. Do you have this at 3?
I think it's 3. My answer changes now because I do think this Devers trade does enough that it puts the Giants in this thing for the rest of the season. So yeah, I think it's 3. My answer the other day was 2 because I thought that the other team might have the NL East might have a chance to put in another team. Now I think 3 teams come out of the West.
I'll zag and say 2. Don't ask me which 2, but I think it's 2. Laura says Shohei Ohtani Dodger pitching debut tomorrow. I'm thrilled. History. It is crazy. We've seen this guy. He's been in our life for so long, a full season, then an entire postseason, and now almost halfway through this season. And it's weird to think he's about to do something that we have never gotten to see him do as a Dodger. So again, if you missed the news, Ohtani starting for the Dodgers tomorrow. Some exciting stuff. Let's get to 1 or 2 more questions, and then we'll end. I shouldn't say early. We're already at an hour 15, but it is Father's Day here. J.O. Punk, starting 5 by early September. I assume he's not talking about the Lakers. We're talking about the Dodgers here. I think there's a world where it's Yamamoto, it's Snell, it's Ohtani, it's Glasnow, and it's Kershaw. If I had to guess, if you're giving me health, now I would say it's a 6-man rotation, and give me Emmet Sheehan as the 6th.
Yeah, those would be all of my choices too. Assuming Glasnow's back.
Yeah.
If he's not, then I think you throw.
What, you don't want to assume that Tyler Glasnow is going to be healthy, Anthony? Jeez Louise.
We might as well assume Roki's going to be healthy.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah. So I have the same exact answer as you there. And if Glasnow is not the guy, then I think they stick with May, because he's proven at least that he stunningly is durable for now.
Yeah. Laura's pressing me on which 2. I think Dodgers and Padres make the playoffs. That's my guess. I think the Giants. I just don't see it. I don't see it. Maybe I'm wrong.
That was
On
my
wants to
answer
know
the other day. Was I thought the Giants' offense was not enough to keep them in this thing the entire season.
And I mean, look, Harrison is who he is, but they also like I don't. They've got to fill out a rotation now too. Is the other piece. So
Yeah, for sure. And he's being optioned to AAA when he gets to Boston. So it's just a weird trade.
yeah, so many questions. Wants to know why not let Teo bat second instead of Betts. He's better RBI wise than Betts for the past 2 years. No disrespect to Mookie, but with Ohtani walking in crucial situations, Teo feels safer. I would actually push back on a lot of this from the perspective of if what I would be looking for in a number 2 hitter, like Teoscar Hernandez, his on base percentage starts with a 2 and not a 3. And so Teoscar is the guy that I want with multiple guys on base, not if with Ohtani standing at first. As we sit here today, Mookie Betts has an on base percentage of 353. Teoscar's is 300. So it does start with a 3. Apologies. Oh no, this is from yesterday. It's down below 3 now. Anyways, neither here nor there. But Teoscar makes way more sense to me as a 5 or 6 hitter than a 2 hitter is my answer, Anthony.
Yeah, I like him where he's at. And the reason why he's been such a productive RBI kind of guy is because of where he's at in the lineup. That would change if he were to hit second, I think. And it's the reason why Mookie's numbers like that aren't up. I think they'd eventually flip. The other thing is Mookie's strikeout rate is like just a little higher than 10, 11, something like that. And you're looking at, closer to the mid 20s, low 20s, mid 20s with Teoscar Hernandez. That's a big difference there. And with Shohei, you're talking about him being on base is a reason why. I would say him being on base is a reason why to keep Mookie there, because he's more of a bat to ball guy.
Yeah, I like it. All right, let's get to a food question. David says, I watched the U.S. Open with a few buddies today. My friend made meatloaf for dinner. Are you guys fans? I love it. Are you a meatloaf guy, Anthony?
I'm not a big meatloaf guy.
I've had one time I went to, like, I'm not going to say a fancy restaurant, but a legitimate restaurant, and someone was like, order the meatloaf. It was good. Most of us are thinking about like your Aunt Karen's meatloaf.
I was just going to say something like that.
Ketchup dumped all over it. So like I'm out on that. But in theory, the idea of meatloaf, I have no issue with.
Yeah, I am with you. I have had good meatloaf and it's good. Like, yes, it's not a thing that I'm like, oh, no, I don't want that. I don't go to a lot of places where their specialty is meatloaf, I guess.
Yeah, fair. Okay, so what I was really going to ask is Father's Day today. You're a father. What was on the menu? Did we have a special meal at some point mixed throughout the day? Is it happening once we're done here?
Yeah, we went to a brunch buffet at a like really kind of upscale Italian place, and they had a like a breakfast bar, and then they also had like a pasta, chicken marsala, chicken, that kind of buffet bar also. So it was legit. I enjoyed it. I left there. They rolled me out of there.
Okay. Italian brunch bar. Those are two things. That's not like a type of food I normally associate with brunch, but
Yeah, we had never done that before. We had been to that restaurant before, but this was it was a special Father's Day thing that they did. So we were like, let's go and try that out. And it was pretty good.
Iris wants to know what the name of the restaurant was.
Five.
There you go. I had a breakfast sandwich this morning, bagel, eggs, cheese, bacon, real bacon. Fantastic. And I've got some Indian food on the way tonight. So I freaking love Indian food. But
Indian food's good.
Yeah. Some butter chicken, some naan, some prata. It's going to be fantastic. Jedi Engineer says, confirmed Anthony won't do anything for love and won't do that either. This feels like a song lyric that's not popping up to.
Is that Red Hot Chili Peppers?
I don't know. I was going to get Celine Dion. So one of us is very, very wrong. And the other one is very, very correct. Or maybe both of us. There you go. I don't know what that means. So apologies to LOL is all we got. Jedi Engineer, if you want to give. Oh, it's from Meatloaf. Got it. It's from Meatloaf.
It's Meatloaf. Oh,
well,
yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Duh. Yes.
Yeah.
Now it rings a bell.
Yeah, there you go. So it wasn't Celine Dion, is what you're telling me? I think I was more off. I think Red Hot Chili Peppers feels closer to Meatloaf than Celine Dion does.
I thought that line, that's a line of like, remember they did that hit song for the Beavis and Butthead movie of all movies? Like that was one of the lines in that. Maybe it wasn't Red Hot Chili Peppers. Though.
I could sing the song in my head. I would do anything for love.
Yes.
But I won't. Yeah.
So not a big Meatloaf on the plate kind of guy, and not a big Meatloaf musician kind of guy.
There you go. So apologies. Oh, Snert says Celine Dion is way closer. So there you go. I I'm taking that as a win.
Yeah, we both took an L on that one. The chat's all over us.
Yeah. John says, Jeff, if you like Indian food, you should come here to Singapore. John, fun fact, I lived in Singapore for 4 years. That's where I fell in love with Indian food. And Little India in Singapore is literally, if you could fly me anywhere in the world to have my last meal, I might, that might be where I go.
How old were you when you lived in Singapore?
Studied abroad in college.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Singapore does have the best food. To everybody in the chat, if you are a food person, go to Singapore. It is basically people from India, people from China, all these different places, Malaysia, and they all just bring their food with them. And it is the best food everywhere you look. So, John, yes, I did study at National University of Singapore. There you go. 4 months. I always forget exactly what year. It was either 2008 or 2009, but
nice.
Unbelievable. And Dodger Blue, is their chicken better than Wagyu? Singapore's national dish is chicken and rice. So fun fact about Singapore, and this will be the last thing I say. The funniest thing that happened to me in Singapore is you'll all be shocked to hear that the portion sizes in Singapore are smaller than they are in America.
Yes.
So like my first 2 months there, I lost so much weight. My wife, now she was my girlfriend at the time, would see pictures of me and is like, are you eating? What's going on? And then, because I'm a stupid, dumb American, Anthony, you know what I figured out? You could just say, hey, I'll have the chicken rice and I'll do double meat, please. And all that weight just came right back. It's like, oh, for $4 more, I could just get twice as much chicken with the broth all over the rice. So there you go. Fun fact, just order more food. The dumb American thing to do everywhere you go.
Right.
And you can do that. So yeah, John, you live in Holland Village, go to Little India and just eat your heart out. So there you go. Alex, can you talk about show? I really could care less about the dinner option. We appreciate you, Alex. If you rewind the tape, we talked about Shohei Ohtani for 35 minutes. So enjoy watching this show back and hearing us talk about Shohei Ohtani breaking the news.
I'll synthesize it for you. We're real excited about this.
We're really excited. And then when we found out that it's tomorrow, we got even more excited. So there you go. Folks, enjoy the rest of your night. Happy Father's Day again to all those out there. Happy Father's Day to you, Anthony. Enjoy the rest of your night. The Dodgers take 2 out of 3 from the Giants after taking 2 out of 3 from the Padres. They now have a 2-game lead in the National League West as they start a 4-game series against the San Diego Padres with Shohei Ohtani on the mound. Again, stay tuned right here. If you have not already, ring the notification bell on this page before you leave, because we might be doing a special post-game show tomorrow night. And the way that you would find out about that is if you have subscribed to our channel and rung the notification bell that will then tell you, hey, guess what? Dodger Heads is going live in 30 minutes or an hour or whatever, and we would love to have you join us. So stay tuned. We might be coming live. If not, we will definitely be here on Tuesday night for game 2 of that series, again, scheduled to be a bullpen game, which sounds less fun than Shohei Ohtani starting. Yeah. So that is Anthony. I'm Jeff. Check out DodgerBlue.com for all the latest. Dodger Blue 1958 on social media. Enjoy the rest of your night. Go Dodgers. And yes, still champs.